Okie dokies. So the next part that I want to talk about is born of a lot of videos that I've seen this week that came off of the Australian election, where the Australian Labor Party, which is Labor, L-A-B-O-U-R, not L-A-B-O-U-R, which was interesting. Didn't know that. Landslide victory for Labor in Australia. And a lot of this is sparked from Friendly Geordies, who's an Australian political YouTuber guy. I think it's the best way to explain it. Definitely not afraid about diving into politics and dirty politics to the point where someone bombed his house, firebombed his house, essentially. Because of some things that he was saying about the New South Wales government. He was definitely rightfully calling out the government for some corruption, and somebody didn't like that. Just, interesting. So the poor guy has been targeted by all sorts of shitty stuff, but he continues on, and it's great. He did a video, which I think even Pat might have mentioned. Oh, no, he mentioned the other one. But this one was called Australia's Future is Very Exciting. And Jordan Shanks is his name, was talking about Labor's plan for the country, the future of Australia. And it's fascinating. The plan itself is really... I don't understand the nuances. I'm not an expert in terms to like Australian politics and stuff like that. But there is something that started with this, and then a few other videos that I watched where there is this feeling of people want a vision and people want a future and a plan. And I think that's the reason that a lot of us really, really like the Green Party, because they give us this really awesome framework that's interconnected based on research that could propel us forward. And we all connect with that and go, these all connect. We get the context. They all fit together. It's all pieces of the same puzzle. If we could just get this fabric in place, we can actually move forward as a society. And I understand why people don't like it because it's like super aggressive or whatever. But this is echoed in this video, particularly where they're talking about Labor's future for Australia, and it's really fascinating. I'm not going to say I'm for it because there's a lot of things about mining and oils and minerals, and I know that has its implications and things like that, and especially when you're talking about is it First Nations,
yes.
sort of Aboriginal, places and lands and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to get into that. That's not really the point of what I'm getting at here. The point more so is that Labor have done it in Australia where they've gone forward with a vision, and I think that is part of the reason that they won by a landslide, is they had this grand vision of what the future of Australia is going to be, not necessarily that Trump got elected and everyone's freaking out. That's the feeling that I get from this. And I also get it because of the Democrats as well have the same issue, where they just didn't push a vision that echoed what the public were feeling, especially Democrats as a majority were feeling. And I think that's what lost them, because people got disillusioned. Different system, because obviously it's a two-party system. We have a MMP, but
we saw that here, though. I mean, a lot of people put off Labor because they did not commit to capital gains tax. Same thing. Also, there was actually clarification. Apparently, the firebombing was from the gambling expose.
Sorry.
Stuff, which technically is technicality.
I think that, it was the gambling stuff, but it also was linked into whatever his name is. All I can think of is Bruz. it's all connected with that guy, so it's kind of all the same, but it's also, I know what you mean. So I can't actually play this video for you, which is a bit annoying for you guys, but I can play it muted, and you can sort of see how little Geordie explains it. So the general base of the system that they're going with is, or that Labor have proposed, is, you know how they do a lot of mining and they got a lot of rich minerals and all that sort of stuff. Basically, they, instead of selling their stuff or buying all of those minerals and things from China, produce it inside, sell it inside, make stuff inside of Australia, and then sell those products to the rest of the world. And the general feeling that they want to come out with this from this scheme, one, is going to make them a ton of money. Two, it's going to boost their economy and create so many jobs. As you can imagine, the flow-on effect of, the mining jobs that you would get from it, the productivity from it that you would get from it, like all of these sectors, all of these things that would just flow on and flow on and flow on. So it would boost their economy tons. Again, not an economist, so you can take what I'm saying.
I'm sure Craig Rennie would be able to explain it for us. I'm sure he could.
I'm sure he would agree with me. The only thing was, it was so confusing. Not confusing. It was so grand and big in a big framework, kind of like the Greens do, that it was really hard to market, and it possibly got lost the nuances of what he was trying to sell to the people. Something obviously cut through, though, that they got through to them. Almost, so there was probably some other policies that got through to the voter base that has fueled it. There's also a thing on the anthonyalbanese.com.au, Future Made in Australia scheme, and talking about it. So the grand vision is essentially becoming is to decarbonize the world and become the makers of the things you need to decarbonize, so your batteries and stuff like that. And investment is the big one as well. So you investment in education, research, and R&D, research and development, small businesses. There's also a thing about defense industry capability, but again, that's just the general overview. I'm sure there's nuance to it, or the things that don't make sense. But the thing that came out from that was just vision and action and a plan, which then also echoed something else that I was watching. This is a political pundit called Tom Nicholas from the UK, and he was talking about postmodernism, which is kind of philosophical, I guess. I'll play this silently, but I can read you the script as well, because it was talking about how in a crisis, and this came after the financial crisis, how people want to see a plan and they want to see action. So I'll just read the script to you. This is probably easier. Otherwise, too many things on my screen. Is this the correct one? Yes, it is. A deeply cynical way of viewing the world in which to define postmodernism have been shaken. A series of cities, and they named the 2008 financial crisis and the climate crisis in particular, but we might add on the global crisis, housing crisis, aging populations, rising inequality, and the collapse of the international institutions, which were supposed to fend off both trade wars and real ones too, that perhaps it was possible to roll our eyes in truth and ideology during eras of far-off wars and economic bubbles, but a world as crisis-stricken as ours seems to demand actual positive action. It seems to demand a plan. It kind of demands some ideology. And then it's talking about arts as well and things like that, and how it's... I think the thing that's an example was Borat.
Oh, yeah.
Was he was talking about how art reflects life and like the weird absurdity of it, and then he was talking about the guy who makes the balloon dogs into massive statues. Yeah, he was talking about that. But I think the thing that struck me, because of other things that I've been watching, because of things like the Future Australia type stuff, was that people just want a plan, they want a vision, they want a future, they want something positive that they can look forward to. And I think those are the things that are sticking out for me for what Labour need to be focusing on. And that's what the people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's kind of what my little
your TED talk.
Oh, I muted you. I'm so sorry. I was probably talking over you this whole time. I'm so sorry.
Fine.
I was like, why aren't you speaking? It's because I accidentally muted you.
No, you're all right, you're all right. I
I'm
didn't
so
say
sorry.
much, don't worry, don't worry.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this Labour government needs to do something different. I mean, I did see one funny video of old Chippy this week where I'm like, "Oh, where Chippy Dub?" But man, he either needs to start being a bit better, or I don't know. I genuinely think maybe someone else would be better.
Well, I think what it comes down to for me is that there is two examples, right? You can look at the states and you can go, the Democrats did not push change, a new way of doing things enough to encourage people to vote. Like you saw a massive decline in voters of turnout for Democrats, and Democratic voters just didn't go to the polls and vote. There's two things that have come out of that. You've got, unfortunately, because of that, Republicans got in. Trump's enacting his Project 2025 bullshit, and it is actually fucking over people. The weird positive of that is that it's pushed the Democratic Party to go and to reevaluate and say, shit, maybe we're out of touch. Maybe we're a bunch of 80-year-olds who don't fucking know what the people want. And we keep playing this weird center line that people don't actually want to see. And the policies that we're putting out aren't what the people need and want. And it doesn't fuel that feeling of change that now we're seeing from the likes of Bernie Sanders and AOC. You know, they're going around and doing their oligarchy tour, and it's doing massive, massive numbers. And I think the same thing would have done really, really well pre-Trump as well. But I think it may be doing even better because of Trump, because it's reflecting, hey, look, you've got your oligarchy now. Well done, guys. We're fucked. But like as a people together, we can actually do something. And that's the feeling that I think they weren't able to capitalize on because of Joe Biden was in there for too long and they didn't get enough time with Kamala Harris.
Oh yeah, I mean, she definitely did not get enough time to have a chance at all.
And because they're a massive nation as they are, it's not like what we saw here with Jacinda, who jumped in six weeks before the election. She was able to like absolutely steamroll it and like win. You can't do the same thing in the States because of it's like she had 3 months. She had a 3-month window. I'm pretty sure Jacinda had a much, much smaller window than that. But again, the size of the countries are just completely different. So people thought it was still Joe Biden that was running for Democrats. They didn't even see anything from Kamala. So yeah, some interesting stuff there. I think the only other thing from that video from Tom Nicholas, who I highly recommend, he's got a very typical British voice, which is just nice to listen to. The video is about postmodernism, which is kind of ideological type stuff. But he was also talking about postmodernism. Postmodernism is kind of like the timing, and how there's this fear of going too far into an ideology, right? It's the same issue they have with the Greens, of people going, you guys are too ideologically progressive left. You know, you're stuck in your ideology. You're stuck in this little bubble of ideology. But
not everyone is.
But I think what he was saying is that because of the many large crises that we have today, we need a massive ideology to fix what we've got. And you can either have a massive ideology in the right and do a Trump thing, and he's fixing everything with their ideology, which is completely unhumanitarian. It's disgusting. It's going to fuck over the world. But he's within an ideology that he's enacting. And it's working because he's steamrolling and he's doing a bunch of shit that's fucking everything up. But it's fucking everything up in the way that he wants it to. It's fucking over the small people and the middle class people and the slightly wealthy people. And it's just growing the massive billionaire class to what they want. And those terrorists aren't going to touch them. And it's this whole thing that he's trying to create. It might actually work, but he's going to fuck over so many people. Whereas the Greens ideology is about helping people. And yes, that might put us into more debt. And I think Craig would be the best one to explain this. But the money that we'd be spending is investing in people, investment in our services, investment into the stuff that we need to grow a thriving nation, essentially. So I think what I'm I'm seeing out of all of this is that NZ Labour, I think, would benefit from leaning into an ideology. The same way that Labour in Australia have leaned into a plan that sits within an ideology of sorts. Like they're not scared away and going, "Oh, you guys are such lefties." It's like, yeah, we're lefties. Yeah, we're lefties, and this is what we do. Yeah, we're lefties, and we believe in capital gains tax, and this capital gains tax is going to fix this and this and this. We have an ideology, and that's about the lower middle class and making sure that they can thrive every day, not survive every day. I think they need to put their little line in the sand and say, "This is us." And it may not be progressive enough for Greens voters. That's fine, vote Green. But it sure as hell isn't the bullshit that National are pulling right now that is fucking over probably a good 80% of the country.
I mean, I think though part of that actually would be I think part of it is communication. Because I feel like the way that politics is communicated, they'll be like, oh, and this could even extend to the Greens, as much as I will always vote for them. They often focus on, oh, we're going to help increase this environmental thing, or we're going to spend money on this thing. But I think what they should be saying is, we're going to be focusing on this thing, and this is what we will get out of it. Because if we focus on the actual, because most people, thinking in the future is quite difficult for humans. They've actually done a lot of psychological studies that show the further away something is, the harder it is for us to conceptualize, and therefore we often will take the short reward, the closer reward, rather than waiting for that long-term payoff. If we could actually be focusing maybe in the communication when they're like, this is our policy, cool, just skim over that, but actually tell us what we're getting out of it. Explain how we will have more taxes. Explain how in the long run it will make people more money. Because people are going to focus on those things. So maybe actually highlight those things. Also, I mean, when it comes to the Trump thing, first of all, it's not Trump's Project 2025. It is the Atlas Network's 2025. He is just a puppet with whom they do their bidding. That's just my hey, I said Atlas Network once so far. And we're also in a pyramid scheme. Think about it. The oligarchy is just a fucking pyramid scheme, or an MLM, where the middle class and the lower class, we're all at the bottom of the fucking pyramid. That's how it works. If you think about how all of those pyramid schemes work, it's the one at the top, and there's no trickle down. It's the same with the way our governments are running. Being run by oligarchs, but we have an issue with the fact that we're in an MLM, and the fact that we need to actually change the way that we're communicating. Also, I think New Zealanders do need a bit of an attitude change. We need to adjust our attitudes, because I think a lot of us are kind of being a bit shit recently. I think, they like to go, oh, it's an imported culture war. Yeah, they might have imported it, but New Zealanders are still taking it on and repeating it. And while there are complicated factors that can be involved, it's still that New Zealanders are perpetuating these ideas. So we can't try to just fob it off on oh, it's just imported. Yeah, it is just imported. A lot of our stuff is imported. How many things do we have in our house that say made in Taiwan or China? Just because it's imported doesn't mean it's not a threat. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And also does not mean it is not our responsibility to fix. Because I think Edu talks about it a lot in the Toi Tū movement, is that they are trying to actually change attitudes and at that very core level, because again, from psychological point of view, your attitudes inform your behaviors, and then your behaviors can then inform your attitudes, and those can perpetuate and cycle, and that's how you end up, I don't know, being racist or bigoted towards whatever the fuck. We need to focus on communication and changing our attitudes, because we're all getting a bit fucking, well, a lot of us are getting a bit fucking entitled. That's my rant. Full stop.
I love it. I love it. Well, that was my little lecture to show you down the rabbit hole that I went. I highly recommend going and watching those videos. If you're into this sort of stuff, there's Tom Nicholas does a bunch of really good stuff. I think he also has been doing some podcasty type things, which are a bit more off the cuff. He's fantastic. And if you don't know, Friendly Geordies is amazing. And he has an entire playlist of his what led to his house getting bombed
Mm.
and burned
Actually,
down.
I started a message. Interesting fact. The reason that theirs is spelt different is because an American was had a big influence over them, which is why they have the American spelling. Which, if you don't know, the reason that they spell it without the U is because in newspaper print, to save money, they would take the U out because you could still understand the word.
There you go.
That's why a lot of their ones don't have U's.
There you go. Fascinating. The more you know. Thank you.